Us, it's the Spencers, and we're back for Strengthening Love and Sex. Baby, are you excited about this
I
episode?
am so excited about this episode because
Yes.
we're talking about some very important relationship stuff.
We're talking about trick or treat.
Trick or
Now,
treat.
tonight is Halloween or Harvest Fest, as we call it in the church. And it's a night where young people all over America are looking forward to getting some candy, something
Mm,
sweet to eat.
mm.
Guess what? When you grow older, you also want some treats.
You do? Like
Yeah,
what kind of treats?
the sweet kind,
Mm.
sweet and sticky kind, sweet sticky thing. So we're going to talk about getting some treats tonight and not getting tricked. And the Bible talks about that, and we want to talk about it with you. So we're glad you're tuning in tonight. If this is your first time on YouTube, welcome.
Welcome,
So good to
welcome.
see you on Dr. Stacey L. Spencer's YouTube channel. Here with my wife Rhonda and I, as we are on the Naked and Unashamed channel of our YouTube channel, and we're talking about strengthening love and sex. And tonight is no different because again, we're talking about being tricked or treated. Did you like Halloween when you were a kid?
I did.
What was your favorite candy?
My favorite candy was Twix.
Twix
Yes.
with the chocolate caramel.
Yes, because there was multiple pieces of candy and then I could break them
I like
and save it.
I like the caramel apples. Oh my
Mm.
God, those are so good.
Now, we didn't accept any food that was not store bought.
Oh,
So,
see, I'm from the country, so we knew everybody. Uh, but as we talk about treats, there's a scripture in there's a story in the Old Testament about Jacob and Leah.
mhm.
Jacob ended up falling in love with his first cousin. Now we don't roll like that these days.
Absolutely.
We don't marry cousins, but back in those days, the Israelites used to marry within their tribe, and so Jacob takes a trip to his uncle Laban's house, and he sees his first cousin Rachel and falls in love, and he asks the father for a hand in marriage. He says, "Sure, work for me for 7 years, and I'm going to give you my daughter in marriage."
Okay.
Remember that story?
Yes, absolutely.
So on the night that they were to consummate the marriage after 7 years of free labor,
Hmm.
Jacob is excited to marry Rachel. But little does he know that his uncle Laban is a shyster.
Mm.
And this joker dresses up his older daughter, Leah, who has a weak eye. The Bible says she has a weak eye, which means she's cockeyed.
Or
And
that's just a little lazy eye.
lazy eye,
Yeah.
and nobody has suited her or married her. So he disguises her as Rachel, puts her in the bridal chambers, cuts the lights off, and Jacob goes to lay down with her. He makes love to her, and then in the morning, it's morning. The sunlight shines across your sleeping face. And so when the light comes in, he raises up the veil, and it is weak eyed Leah staring at
Mhm.
him, and he is hot. He runs to Laban. He's like, "Why'd you trick me?" That's it's the little words. He said, "Why did you trick me?" And Laban says, "Well, it's our custom not to give away the youngest daughter before the oldest daughter.
Right.
So if you agree to work with me for another 7 years, I'm going to give you my other daughter as well at when the bridal week." So he goes through the week, and now he has two wives and two concubines.
Okay.
Is that a trick or a treat?
Well, it depends on how you look at it.
Well, talk about it.
Well, I would think it would be a trick because he's thinking that he's getting one sister and not the other, and he was deceived by his uncle.
Mm.
So if he had told him straight up, right up front, that, hey, it's custom, or maybe he didn't realize that the older daughter hadn't been married. So if he had told him in the beginning, communicated, hey, I need you to work X amount of years and then you can have both, make it seem like it's a good, sweet deal. I
Wow.
got to marry your first daughter off. But guess what? As a bonus, in those times, you'll also get my younger daughter.
But because he didn't communicate that
Nope.
up front, it was a trick.
It was absolutely a trick.
But if he had communicated up front, it could have been a treat.
Absolutely. It's all in a matter of perspective.
Have y'all ever felt tricked in a relationship where you thought you were marrying one thing and you got another?
Mm.
The person you met had a public persona, but when you got together in private, it was different. some of us have felt tricked before, right? And what happens, babe, is that a lot of times opposites attract.
Oh yes, opposites always attract.
Can you talk about that?
Opposites attract because whatever it is that you see in another person, let's say hypothetically, one person is very outgoing and very
Hmm.
outspoken, and the other person is a bit shy and or an introvert. One's an introvert, one's an extrovert. And as the relationship progresses, you get married, sometimes those tendencies that or those attributes that attracted us to that person later on in marriage starts to get on our nerves.
You sound like you're talking from personal experience.
Well, we are being a little transparent, all right?
So I'm the only extrovert in our family. Can y'all believe that? I'm the only extrovert. My wife's an introvert, and my sons are introverts. And so sometimes they don't laugh at my jokes. They say I talk too loud. I talk to too many people, and it's sad sometimes.
It's all a matter of perspective.
And so we have learned how to dance
Mhm.
as an extrovert and introvert. In other relationships, somebody might, what do I want to say, be more talkative and the other person quiet.
Mhm.
Uh, it just, but what happens is over time, the things that brought, like you said, the things that brought you together cause you to detract if you do not work on them.
Right.
And it's not so much that the person has tricked you, it's just that they had a veil up.
Hmm.
Watch this. So, why didn't Jacob know he wasn't making love to Rachel?
Because he didn't know what she looked like or didn't know her. Or maybe they didn't spend enough time together for them to get to start a relationship, for him to think that something was wrong
It's
or
some,
different.
it's simpler than all of those things you just said.
Uh,
She had a veil on.
yeah, I was going to say that. Why didn't he lift the veil up? Maybe it was customary. You know that is. Maybe it was
It was.
customary that you.
You can't lift it up until the morning time,
Okay.
right? So let's
What
just say she had that veil on all night.
all night? She had a scarf on all night as a
So
veil.
so Leah's body must have been banging because he
Okay.
didn't say nothing. He kept on going
Well,
until the morning.
until the morning.
But when that morning hit and he lifted up that veil, he knew right away this is not Rachel.
Hmm.
Uh, and for some people listening, you felt like you were hoodwinked because the person you got with had a veil on. And what is that veil, babe? What are some of the veils that people wear in a relationship? What's the first one?
When we're dating, we put on a public face, sometimes to impress. We put our best foot forward
Mm-hmm.
when we're dating. We
Mm-hmm.
make sure that our brows are on fleek, that our nails are done. Everything is good outwardly. So that, and then we put our best behavior
You
forward.
meet their public representative.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. So that's one of the veils.
And it's important, I think, for people who are single who might be
Mm.
listening, is that when you're dating, you got to recognize that you're meeting the public representative, and you got to do some digging. That's why I tell people who are seriously dating that you need to date for at least 2 years, so that you can vet that person, so that you am I talking to your public representative? I'm really talking to you. I'll ask them also this question: have you had a fight yet?
Mm. Now we're talking about
Not a physical fight. I'm talking about a disagreement.
right.
So you can see, because watch this: when a person gets angry, you find out who they really are.
Mm.
Uh, Out of the heart, the mouth speaks. So you want to have time to vet: is this the person I'm really getting, or do they have a veil up? So another way that people wear veils, watch this, is we hide behind the veil of unconfessed sexual preferences.
Talk about it.
So have you all talked in your relationship about what you desire sexually? A lot of times when we date, you get a surface you get a surface taste of what that person wants. We have evolved in our relationship, in our marriage. We've learned together about our sexuality and our preferences, what we like and what we don't like.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're young, you only present a little bit of that because you don't want, especially women, don't want to be shamed into thinking I'm a freak or labeled as promiscuous. and men, it's a double standard, are allowed to express their sexuality a lot more than women, right?
You're right. But I also think it could be a group of women and men who don't necessarily know what they prefer or what they may evolve into or what they like. We know that they like Kit Kats. Let's say when you go
Hmm.
trick or treating, there's so many different types of candy. And
Mhm.
so you may think, okay, well, hey, I may not like a butterscotch, but since I have the butterscotch here at home with me, let me try it. I'm like, oh, let's try that new position. Let's try this. So as you continue to grow
Mm.
and evolve, you learn to try different things. You've got to go in that mixed bag of not tricks, but treats so
Mm.
that you both can become comfortable. And if it's something that you both don't like or you don't agree upon, then you toss that joker.
Yeah. But the veil, I think, for me, symbolizes people who hide all of who they are because they don't know if the other person can handle it. And so that, I think a lot of us have dealt with that, and we got married and raised the veil up like, wait a minute, you don't want to have sex 3 times a week? You don't like this position? You don't like doing that? I didn't know that. Why didn't you tell me?
Mm,
But I think we evolve in relationships, and it's okay, like you
keep
said,
growing.
to keep growing, and our preferences may change. So you shouldn't feel like you've been tricked simply because your spouse may not be where you are sexually, because again, opposites attract. So one of you might want sex more than the other.
Mhm.
And as a matter of fact, in marriage, there's always one person who wants it more than the other. But you got to figure that dance out. Another way we hide behind veils is we hide behind religious veils. In 2 Corinthians 3:13, it says, we are not like Moses, who put a veil over his face so the people of Israel would not see the glory, even though it was destined to fade away. Wow. When Moses received the Ten Commandments, he went up on the
Yes,
mountain. He was face to face with God.
right.
The glory of God was so powerful that when he came down off the mountain, he was glowing.
Hmm.
And the people were intimidated by his glow, and they said, please cover up. So he put a veil over his face, even though the glory was fading. And a lot of times we put up these religious veils because we don't want people to see that our glory is fading. We don't want to show our authentic selves. And I don't know if we've been able to truly integrate our erotic selves with our spiritual selves. So a lot of times we hide behind religious veils, religious jargon.
Then there's the other veil of when people will say relationship goals. Like you and your spouse, you're out, you're doing great, you're posting things, you're hanging out, you're still dating, but then you have these couple friends or even single friends that are like, "Ah, they get on my nerves. There they go again." So then that couple that is showing everyone how they truly are loving their spouse, they kind of pull back because they're afraid to offend their couple friends that may not be doing so well.
And on the other side of the coin, some people be flogging.
This is true. This is true
Some
too.
folk put their best self on social media.
Hmm.
They're always happy, they're kissing, they're having a good time. We have disagreements.
Oh, absolutely.
And so don't get it twisted. We're we're happy most of the time. But
But sometimes I don't like him,
and sometimes I don't like what she do.
and sometimes that's okay.
And no, it's not.
But we love each other.
And we
That's the
work our
point.
way through
Yes,
it.
yes.
But don't get it confused. There are times when we veil our disagreements because it's not for public consumption. And so there has to be a balance of knowing that they may not be a perfect couple, but it is okay to show PDA.
Hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with it. We shouldn't be ashamed of that. We shouldn't hide that. We
Right.
shouldn't veil that. And the last veil is we hide behind veils of insecurity.
Okay.
Leah had what?
She had a weak eye.
She had a weak eye, and she hid herself. Why? Why did she put a veil on? Number one, it was tradition,
Yes.
but there's another reason.
That she desired to be married, or
And she
that
pretended to be.
her younger sister.
Wow, listen to this. Leah was complicit in the deceit. She knew
Mm.
that Jacob didn't want to marry her, but she laid down, Lord have mercy, but she laid down anyway with a veil over her face and let this man make love to her, thinking that she was her sister. How many of us have veils of insecurity and we don't let our authentic self come out because we don't think the other person is going to be able to handle who we really are?
Mm.
Can you talk about that as a woman? How do some women veil themselves, veil their insecurities?
Well, I think a
I'm
lot,
talking to Mike so they can hear you good.
considering what you were exposed to, how you were brought up, it all contributes to how you show up in the marriage.
Mm.
So if you were not exposed to, if your parents weren't on, if you came from a single home, or if you came from a married two-person home, then your experiences with your spouse are going to be different because you saw that image, you saw your parents together, you saw what they did. But there are times that women veil themselves because we don't want to scare off our husband or become judged of what our husbands may think if we want something different sexually in the bedroom. If we want to explore different positions, then sometimes if your spouse may have a bit of insecurity, they may be like, oh, where did this come from? Why are you showing this? Or where did you learn this from? Or if there is an illness, not really an illness, but if there is something going on in your family, you're not really trying to bring your spouse around. You're hiding yourself, you're veiling yourself, or putting up, oh yes, we have the best family, and you're not showing up authentic.
Do you think the majority of men would be offended if their wife was more sexually aggressive?
No, I do not think that majority of men would be disappointed if their wife was more sexually aggressive. What I do think men would be questioning if they were too good at it.
How'd you learn to do that so good?
Right.
Wow. And so maybe it's the men who need to deal with their own insecurities and not the women.
I think it's both. It's both because I can also imagine that there are some women who may feel their spouse, and the husband may switch it up a little bit, and you're laying there, you're like, wait a minute, this feels a little different. You weren't this passionate. You weren't this deep, before. What you thinking about? What you been doing? So there could be again something that's playing on in the wife's mind that also is bringing about some insecurity.
And I think we have to unveil those insecurities, expose those insecurities by having loving conversation
Absolutely.
to say, can we debrief about tonight's lovemaking? I enjoyed what you did, or it felt a little awkward there, like you weren't present, you weren't emotionally present in the moment, and you felt different. Can you tell me what was going on in your mind? And I think those kind of level setting conversations are healthy in a relationship instead of just swallowing it like, I don't, I don't know about that. Let's talk about it.
Right.
But Jacob woke up that next morning after making love to Leah. He raises up the veil and he said to Laban, "You tricked me." He was hot. He was irate, and rightfully so. He had worked 7 years for free to get this woman, and then only find out this is not the woman. And so Jacob says, Laban says to him, "Well, listen, I know you. Don't be upset. It's not our custom to give away the youngest before the oldest. Finish out your bridal week and agree to work for another 7 years, and I'll give you both of them and their maidservants." So he had two wives and two concubines. So how do we turn a trick into a treat?
Okay.
The first thing is you have to address the deception. I was tricked. I felt tricked. And so in marriage, when it is that the behavior doesn't match up with what you offered me at the beginning, we got to have a conversation about that. We got to talk instead of being upset. Let's talk about it, right? This is not the person you said you were married. You have to have a conversation about the public representative that you dated and ask them what happened to that person. You used to be so sweet. You used to be so thoughtful. You used to open up the doors for me. Why don't you open the door for me anymore? You used to cook. when we first got married? What happened? You used to put on lingerie, you used to fix your hair. Why did you stop? So there's a point in every marriage. I think we got to talk about it, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. And in those points of conversation, it could be something that happened that turned the relationship to a degree where there was some extra hurt or some deception that was never uncovered or resolved.
Mm.
So each person started building, putting up these fences or these walls brick by brick every time something happened. And so by doing so, you are not really being physically and fully and mentally with your spouse to communicate, hey, this is what happened and this is why I respond in this manner.
Here's the second thing you got to do from moving from getting tricked to getting treated. You have to be willing. Listen to this. Don't y'all get mad at me now. You have to be willing to work another 7 years to Rachel
Okay. For free.
for free. Well, listen to this. So what happened is Jacob agreed to work another 7 years. So he worked a total of 14 years.
Mhm.
7 years for working for free. He lays down to find out this is not the person he married. He
Okay.
thought he was going to marry. What happens in relationships is you hit what's called the 7 year itch.
Mm.
The 7 year itch is when couples reach a point where they get to a place like this doesn't feel right anymore. And should I commit another 7 years in a marriage that is not like the marriage I thought I was going to get into? And what healthy couples determine is I'm going to work another 7 years to get Rachel. I'm not going to leave because I woke up with Leah,
Mhm.
or we've reached a point where we're no longer vibing like we used to. Watch this. The basic idea behind the 7 year itch is that romantic partners experience turbulence and a potential point of reckoning around 7 years together. Viewed as a critical juncture, the 7 year itch is defined as a time when couples reevaluate. We've all reached places in our relationship, right? Where we have to reevaluate. Do I want to stay married? Because I'm not going to stay in a sexless marriage. I'm not going to stay in a marriage where somebody talks to me crazy. Something's got to give. And the something is, are you willing to work for it?
Mm.
And working for it, baby, what does that mean to work for your marriage?
We like to say that you are within ourselves and everyone, that you are 100% responsible on how you act, regardless on how the other person says or do anything. That you're 100% responsible for your own actions, your own mindset. So moving forward, you have to take accountability for yourself. And meaning you have to work on yourself. If that means that you have to get some outside help, that's perfectly fine. If that means that you need to consult with someone who's going through the same thing that you may be possibly going through, then that is fine. But the key is that you're working on it. And in addition to working on yourself, you a changed behavior mindset makes changed actions. Again, a changed behavior mindset makes change reactions. It shows the fruits of your labor.
Mm-hmm. And you can't do it by yourself a lot of times. If you couldn't do it before, you're going to need some help. And that's where we come in. We can
Mhm.
help you all uh, by becoming a part of our inner circle called Eden Circle, where you get coaching and you
Mhm.
meet up with other couples who are trying to work on their marriages. And we have a monthly master class to give you the tools to work on it. So you're going to have to work on it. Third thing, babe, give me the third thing.
You have to learn to love yourself before your spouse can love you effectively. If you don't love you in the skin that you're in, how do you expect your husband to love you? You need to love every hair follicle, every mole, every freckle, every imperfection that you have. You have to love to learn. You have to learn to love yourself before your husband can effectively love you.
Yeah, and it might even mean learning how to pleasure yourself so you know what you like and what you don't like. Get to know your body. Get in front of the mirror You know, I'm 54 now, and I looked in the mirror the other day. I said, you know what? I look good for 54.
You too,
I
babe.
like the way I look, and I sure like the way you look, girl. And so we have to make sure we love ourselves. And then watch this. Number four, don't put too much emphasis on your inability to have children that you miss a romantic connection.
Mm.
What does that got to do with anything, Pastor? I'm glad you asked, because in this text, Rachel cannot have kids. Leah is very fruitful, and she keeps having babies to try to win the love of Jacob. But it doesn't work because his heart is for Rachel. He loves Rachel with a full heart, and he tolerates Leah. And she thinks if I have enough babies, he'll love me. We got to make sure that we're not in performance mode in our marriages, that we love unconditionally. It's not based upon what you can do, it's based upon who you are.
Okay.
So I know for a lot of women, especially in the Old Testament, that there was is a badge of shame not to be able to have children. So how would you tell a woman to not get stuck in performance mode trying to win her husband's love?
I think that comes from learning your spouse's five love languages. That if you are effectively loving your husband the way he desires to be loved with those five love languages, then you're loving him effectively.
Yes.
So if the first one is affirmation, acts of kindness, sexual, all of that, you need to know what the level is, what the order is, also of what those love languages are. And so I think if you study your spouse, know his innermost secrecies,
Idiosyncrasies.
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 Me and tongue ties today. If you learn to love him fully,
Yes.
then there won't be an issue on whether or not he feels loved by you.
That's good, babe. The bottom line is, if you've ever been in a situation where you felt tricked in a relationship, you felt like this is not what I signed up for, you're going to have to work on it. You're going to have some discussion about how you feel tricked, and then move to the treat side.
Mm.
How do you move to the treat side? Hey, let's have some fun with this thing. Let's dress up. You know what I mean? You know, on Halloween, people dress up in costumes. Why can't we dress up for one another? Why can't you put on some sexy lingerie?
Mm-hmm.
How come you can't dress up and role play? Have some fun with it. Number two,
ask your spouse what kind of sex would they like from you. And that in itself just opens up so much, because you're asking your spouse, not giving them what you want, but you're asking them what they want.
get to know your real spouse. Get to know them. Ask open-ended questions. Dig a little bit deeper. Go beyond the surface. Uh, and it can be a treat. You can have Leah and Rachel in one person. So explore one another and know that God wants you to have some sweet love making. So y'all enjoy that sweet, sticky love making, and be delighted in each other. Listen, before we leave tonight, we want to tell you, how many rooms do we have left for the International Jamaica Marriage Retreat?
When I checked earlier, we actually, as a treat, we increased the numbers.
Okay, so we got how many couples registered?
Right now we have 29 couples
Woo!
registered. So
29 couples, which
yes.
means technically we have one room left. But my wife, being the sweet person she is, called the resort and said, can we extend this thing out? So they've given us an extension for more rooms and more time. So if you have not reserved your room to go with us to Jamaica in 2023 in June, do so now. Go to drstacyelspencer.com and you can reserve your room for $100. The information is on the website. So please go there now, because we are going to have a lituation. It's going to be lit. We're going to have fun. We're going to teach you about how to take your love making to the next level. We got excursions. We got a dance every night. It's on a romantic island, blue waters island where you can sunbathe, all you can eat, all inclusive food and drinks, massage. It's going to be amazing.
It's going to be great.
So please go sign up.
Go sign up today. Now that $100 is holding your room
right
now, and it will go toward your room, whichever room you decide. But in addition to holding your room for our 2023 International Love Without Limits Marriage Retreat. We want to invite you, if you're not already, to get involved in our Eden Circle, which is our
Yes.
inner circle. We want to help you and your husband or stay married, you and your wife. We want you guys to stay married. We believe in marriage so much that we want to help you. And how you can get involved in our Eden Circle, you can go to www.theedencircle.com. Again, that's www.theedencircle.com, and become a partner with us in Eden Circle.
Thank you, babe.
You're
Listen,
welcome.
y'all go have a wonderful time tonight. Do something different tonight. Go put on some costumes and get you some whipped cream out and be each other's treat.
Let me go find my
lick you,
pink wig.
let me lick you up and down till you say stop. Bring that, baby. All right, y'all. Listen, we'll see y'all in the next episode. Please share this. If you like this, subscribe, like it, share it with all your married couple friends. And we'll see you next week. Same channel, same time.
See you next week.
All right. See y'all.